This is the episode where we find out that this one right here is a no good ass nigga. But he's still cute though. He can get it. But trash. And welcome to my Safe Gayven, everybody. Thank you guys so much for clicking on another video and joining me here on the Black Gay Comic Geek channel. If this is your first time checking out one of my channels and you happened across my review for episode 4, which is what this is, but you didn't see my reviews for episodes 1 through 3, first, go check out my reviews for episodes 1 through 3. I will be reviewing every single episode of Boots. And allow me to just introduce myself in general. My name is Michael. I call myself the Black Gay Comic Geek. And if you couldn't tell from the name, I'm black, I'm gay, I like comics. And so mostly on my channel, I like to talk about fantasy, sci-fi, horror, superheroes, comic books. But I mostly like to talk about things that have blood, sex, gore, and magic. Every so often, I'll talk about a regular movie and of course, or show. And of course, I like to talk about black representation and queer representation. So if that's something that you're interested in, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Help me to continue to grow the channel. Show your support by also hitting that like button. It'll really help with the YouTube algorithm. Getting this video out there, getting my channel out there so more eyes can see it, more eyes can subscribe, more eyes can interact for the all gay rhythm. With that said, let's continue on with the Boots train of episode 4, which this episode is called Sink or Swim. Once again, if you couldn't tell from the other episodes or even from the title of this episode, we are doing full spoilers for all of Boots. And so the synopsis for Sink or Swim. During an intense swim training, Ray suffers a setback, which forces Cameron to dive in with a risky scheme to keep him above water. Meanwhile, Sergeant Sullivan's time in Guam begins to catch up with him. And so yeah, with this episode and the opening of this episode, we get a little bit more backstory into Ray's storyline played by Liam O. And very similar to a lot of people of color, especially people of color that are like immigrants that come to America. And you hear a lot of this in even Asian communities, for example, like this idea of always having to work the hardest, you know, and we kind of see a little bit of that or a lot of that with Ray's backstory. And ironically enough, it's not even coming from his Asian mother. It's coming from his white father, where his mother wanted to actually put him in the hospital and get him checked out because he was suffering anxiety attacks. And his father was just basically like, I'm not going to have a son that has any type of mental problems or whatever. Like, you need to basically just not have it anymore. Like, you're having anxiety attacks, just stop it. As if that's something that could just be done. It's that same stupid mentality when people say, oh, if you're going through depression, just don't be depressed anymore. Okay, thanks for that. That's not something I thought of. So groundbreaking. And so it sets Ray on this path of like, he always has to have a mission. And with every mission that he does, he always has to accomplish his mission. And he always basically has to be perfect. But in this instance, he wasn't. He ended up failing this the dead man's float test, because you have to lay perfectly still in the water, but he was moving his feet to stay afloat. And so he ended up failing this test. It was his first time actually failing a test in boot camp, but he couldn't handle that. And even Santos was kind of trying to get him to calm down. He's like, it's not a big deal. This is the first thing that you've ever failed. Let's move on from here. Like, do better the next time. But that wasn't acceptable for him. He basically started to have a panic attack because of that. And also in this moment, and then in another moment that happened with Santos and recruit Ochoa, you're starting to also get to see a little bit of the gentle nature with Santos and him trying to even encourage Ochoa, because his only friend, his name is Mo, he ended up getting kicked out because of that whole like claustrophobia episode that he had in last week's episode. In episode 3, where he couldn't go through the gas mask challenge. So Ochoa is sad. And Mo is just trying to encourage him to basically just be like, yeah, it sucks that this happened, but you're still here. And so you basically just got to buck it up and just continue to make it through boot camp. But Ray, he ends up having a panic attack and ends up having to go to the med bay to get checked out to make sure he's just good to continue the rest of boot camp and just good in general. And to backtrack just a little bit, because we're also going to the intro of this episode of finding out that Isaiah Nash, played by Dominic Goodman, his character ain't shit. But you see a moment in the pool where they're doing the dead man's float. Cameron looks up, and who looks up with him? It's Nash. And Nash is the first one to smile at him, gives him like the flirty eyes or whatever, and it makes Cameron smile. You know, when Ray freaks out and has a panic attack, it's Nash that goes to Cameron to check up on Cameron and ask Cameron, like, have you ever seen your boy like that before? So it's like, clearly Nash has a connection with Cameron. It's not just one-sided. But then when you find out what he wrote in that book, you're just like, you are a trash person. Because in many ways, if I was in Cameron's shoes, I would also be thinking to myself, like, is he also gay? Like, does he have feelings for me? Is he like subtly flirting with me? But then also, even if none of that is the case, I'll be like, yeah, that's my friend. He's always looking out for me or whatever. And I do feel like Nash still is friends with Cameron. It's just, it's the 90s. It's the times. And also considering his reaction, I do think there's a little bit more to Isaiah. I don't know if he's 100% straight, but maybe, I guess we'll find out in season 2. I don't know. Because I'm sorry, going back to, I think maybe episode 2, like, I don't know if there's another straight man that would look at another man naked in the shower and smile at him like, hey, so we meet again. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The man is gay or bi. Speaking of bi, this is where we learn that another character who we thought went bye in episode 2 isn't as gone as we thought. We see that Sergeant Knox is still around. They didn't fire him. They didn't get rid of him. All they simply did was transfer him to another platoon, which it's very similar to what happens. Granted, what Knox did is nowhere near as egregious, but it's not that dissimilar to like when cops end up unaliving an unarmed black person and they just simply transfer to another location, but they're still allowed to be cops. Basically the same thing. And I don't know what it is, because yes, he's racist, but he only seems to have an agenda against Ray, because there are black and brown and Hispanic people in the platoon, but he's only going after Ray for whatever reason. Don't know. And it's just so weird now that I know that it's Matt Donovan, just seeing him in this role. Obviously, he's an actor, like, playing different roles. But I'm just like, Matt, no, don't be racist, Matt. We love you, Matt Donovan. And for those of you that don't know, Matt Donovan is the character that he played on Vampire Diaries. And so with that said, we see Ray ends up in the med bay, and you couldn't fully see his face. But based on what I could see, that nurse that was like, or doctor or whatever he was, that military personnel that was like checking him out and had his chart and everything like that, I was like, that man is fine. Like, let me get sick. Let me end up in the med bay. Check me out, daddy. I just kept looking. I said, who is that? I want to see more of him. So I need Ray to go back to the med bay a couple of more episodes in season 2. But with that said, we get to meet a little bit of a love interest for Ray because, you know, he's not gay and he's surrounded by a bunch of men. But now we get to see a woman. And even he was shocked. He's like, you're a girl. Does not compute. And it was cute because we got to see Ray. He got jungle fever. But she doesn't give his name. She doesn't give her name, at least not in this episode. But she basically clocks him. She clocks him. She's just like, yeah, you're one of those people that always has to be perfect, right? The moment you make a mistake, your whole life goes wrong. But they end up having a little bit of a connection. And Ray, she kind of said it. Even though he didn't literally do it, he was starting to pitch a tent a little bit, because the moment she even kind of said it, like, don't pitch a tent over the fact that I'm a girl, he like covered himself up a little bit. Because what? It's been like a couple weeks since they've been in there. Like, probably his first time even seeing a girl. And we already saw that Slovacek or whatever, he's jerking off in the bathroom. So I'm pretty sure, well, maybe not Ray, but he might be a little backed up. Speaking of backed up, we see that Sergeant Sullivan is being backed up into a corner. Yes, come through with these transitions and segues where the head of the Marine Corps, I don't know her name, but she's like pressuring him to like sign the re-enlistment papers to get him to go back to a place like Guam or just to be in active combat duty in general. And he's just like putting it off. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get to it. But we learned that he's not really looking to re-enlist because of everything that's been going on with him because he's gay. And the fact that NCIS is looking into him. Think about the letter that he got in episode 3 about, oh, you left Guam in time because NCIS is looking into you. And so we see he ends up getting a lawyer. And I think by this episode, it becomes more clear that, yeah, he's secretly gay. And that's also why he's been so hard on Cameron Cope. And even in seeking out the lawyer, he doesn't even really want to tell her what his situation is. He kind of hints at it, but ultimately he still wants to be a Marine. He sees his purpose in being a Marine. And if it wasn't for everything that's going on in terms of like who he sleeps with, he would still want to dedicate his life to the Marine Corps. But we also see a flashback of like, we saw the Semper Fi tattoo that he has over his chest. We see, you know, him getting that tattoo and we hear a man's voice in the background of him getting that tattoo. So obviously they have matching tattoos. They went and got it together. And it's at this point that I want to bring in my like criticism, not a criticism, but it's just my personal thing with regards to the show. It's at this point that I found myself started to become more invested in Sergeant Sullivan's story and his development and everything that's going on with him than I was invested in Cameron Cope's character. Like, and it's nothing against like Miles Heiser, the actor, or the writing or anything like that. It's just I personally started to become more invested in his story and background and everything like that than I was Miles. Like every time it went back to Miles, I'd be like, wait, what's going on with Sergeant Sullivan? Let's see that. Let's go back. But speaking of Miles, or not Miles, that's the actor, Cameron, him wanting to help his friend, especially after seeing that he failed the swim challenge and knowing how much being perfect and always doing things right means to Ray, he tries to set up this whole elaborate scheme to set up maybe like a war with Sergeant Knox's camp. And so he seeks out the craziest member of the recruits, Recruit Hicks, which they're Recruit Hicks, Miles, Cameron Cope, and Max Parker, they are the only openly gay actors in this show that they, at least in the main cast. So shout out to them for getting these major roles. And yeah, the actor that plays Hicks, I love him because like his facial expression, like he is unhinged. Like the fact that last episode 3, I keep wanting to say last week, but episode 3, how he stole that snake and now has a pet snake and how that is going to come back in this episode. And then even when they like snuck into like Sergeant Knox's platoon and how he showed up completely naked just for no reason, like the guy, he needs to go to the med bay and be mentally checked out. And so with that said, we saw Sergeant Sullivan flip his shit in, I believe, episode 2, where he completely destroyed the bunker bedroom. I think it was episode 2. Now we get to see it happen with Sergeant, what's his name? The black guy, Sergeant McKinnon. He ends up flipping his shit because his boss, Captain Fajardo, she basically shows up to do like checks on all the recruits. And I feel so bad for like Recruit Ochoa. He like messed up the whole gun thing. And then on top of that, the snake that Recruit Hicks had found got loose. And so one wrong thing after another. And so by definition, it made Sergeant McKinnon look bad. And so he flipped his shit and like destroyed the entire room, flipped open the beds, all of that stuff. And so because of that, this is where we get to see the Agent Nash or Recruit Nash, the downfall of Nash, the respect loss for Nash, because now that the room has been destroyed, they saw Nash's journal. And it was Recruit Slovacek that found it first. And at first I was wondering, like, why didn't he say anything? Because Slovacek was going to keep reading it. And I'm like, at least like snatch it from him or something. But he didn't want to claim it. But it fell into McKinnon's hands. And he even said something about McKinnon where he was like, McKinnon proved the saying of those who can't teach. And you saw McKinnon's face when Nash was reading that out loud. But yeah, like he called Ochoa, he basically called him stupid. He also basically said Slovacek is dumb, called him room temp IQ, big dick, no balls. He more or less made fun of Santos's knee, because Santos mentioned how he had knee problems, and said he needs life alert. And then this is what he said about Cameron Coke, where he said, I'm not going to say it, but you guys know, because again, I don't want this video to get flagged. But then he gave him a sly, backhanded compliment. It was like, well, at least he's read a book. But I'm just like, I thought that was your friend. Like, shame, 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 shame. Nash, no good's gonna till you do right by me. Everything you do, think about is gonna suffer. And of course, Ray, being the friend that he is, tries to comfort Cameron, but it doesn't really work. And so I just wanted to hug Cameron. I wanted to give him a hug and then slap Isaiah Nash. And eventually later in this episode, this is where you kind of get the moment where I believe that the relationship and dynamic between Sergeant Sullivan and Recruit Cope is now going to shift. And this is something that Max Parker did say, so I'm gonna steal this quote from him, where Sergeant Sullivan goes from being his tormentor to then his mentor, because this whole war that's now going on between Ray and then sneaking into Sergeant Knox's camp, it was started by Cameron. He pretended that Sergeant Knox's platoon stole their toilet paper just to give Ray a mission to motivate him. And it was Sergeant Sullivan that saw them sneaking out the toilet paper. So he saw the whole thing. And so during that whole conversation, like, Sergeant Sullivan is pushing Cameron. It's just like, I'm gonna tell everybody what you did. Clean out the dumpster, let people know. But Cameron fights back. He asserts himself and he's like, look, I don't care what you say or what you do to me, but he speaks freely. He said, I would rather fail than see my friend fail. And it's through that conversation that also kind of motivates Sergeant Sullivan, because Cope says, you told me I didn't belong here. And Sullivan is just like, don't let anybody, not even me, tell you where you should or where you shouldn't belong. The question is, do you want to be a Marine? And Cope said, yes, I do. And he said, okay, then who cares what I have to say? It's what you have to say. Prove to yourself that you can do this. And it's that conversation, prove to yourself. Who cares what anybody else has to say? Don't let anybody else chase you out of the Marines if this is where you want to be. It's that conversation that then motivated him to sign the re-enlistment papers, where he wasn't going to sign it at first because he was running away from the fact that they were potentially finding out that he was gay. And he's like, you know what? I don't care what they might find out. I'm gonna fight. I want to be a Marine. I'm gonna try to fight for this. And speaking of fight, Ray succeeded in his mission. He not only stole the tissue from Sergeant Knox's cabin, but he also took their platoon flag, which Sergeant McKinnon approved of. And he approved of it so much that he let Ray retake his test of floating, which he passed. But it doesn't end on all sunshine and rainbows, because we get to see that NCIS agent that has been sniffing around in Guam, she's now at their platoon location and she's sniffing around Sergeant Sullivan. So we're going to see more of that take place in future episodes. But yeah, that was episode 4 of Boots. Another great episode, another fun episode. I mean, for the most part, I don't dislike any episode. Spoilers for my review overall, but I don't dislike any episode. Like I said, my main criticism at a certain point, because Cameron is the main lead. He's number 1 on the call sheet, but at a certain point, I didn't care as much about his character and his storyline as much as I did about Cope. And also, I will say my biggest criticism is, for a gay show, really it wasn't gay enough for me. Like, I was hoping for more love interest, maybe a bigger love interest for Cameron, getting to see more from Sergeant Sullivan, whatever, like some like little circle jerks going on with the military recruits. But overall, I enjoyed episode 4. But the question is, what did you guys think about episode 4 Boots? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section below. Again, if this is one of your first time checking out one of my videos, check out the other videos on my channel. Check out episode 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then also all the other content that I've reviewed on this channel. If you like what you see, hit that follow, subscribe button, hit that like button, tell your friends, families, and neighbors about my channel to help me continue to grow. Hit that bell notification button so you're alerted every single time I post a new video, every single time a new Boots video goes up. I'm trying to do one every single day, but it does get hard because, like, even with this video going up, but I also work a full-time job. I work from 8:30 to 5:30, so I try to record and review in between my work shift and all this other stuff, but we're going to make it work out. So again, hit that bell notification button so you're alerted every single time I post a new video. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.